badly do the Denver Broncos need the number one seed in the AFC playoff standings? And which team at the top of the conference stands the most in their way of achieving that? Plus, how do the injuries to Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun impact the Nuggets rotation from now into the start of 2026? All things to come on today's rundown. Thank you so much for joining us. While you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 1043 The Fan YouTube channel. You can find us at Denver Sports 1043 on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. If you're watching us live on Facebook or X, we love you. We appreciate you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so that you never miss a moment with us. Plenty to get into today on this Tuesday afternoon, and I want to bring in regular Tuesday guest, it seems like at this point, and friend of the program as always, Jake Shapiro, analyst for DenverSports.com. Jake, how you doing, my friend?
Good. Is today Black Tuesday if tomorrow's Black Wednesday and Friday's Black Friday? Is today Black Tuesday, Richie?
It's at some point, I think we can just start to expand it out. It's just, we can come up with names and reasons for just about anything.
Yeah, I'm with it. And I'm excited this week, Richie, because not only is Thursday one of my favorite holidays of the year where we just get to gorge and watch football, but Friday is a very big NBA Cup clash
in
the Mile High City. And I seem to be the only person excited about the NBA Cup, but I am.
All right. Well, before we get into the Denver Broncos, which I wanted to talk about, Jake, we'll keep it right here, Trey. But get people excited then. Share with us, I should say, and convince us why this NBA Cup action and experience, which the Nuggets have kind of put themselves in the pole position of their grouping, so exciting.
Well, for one, I think the teams actually just try. Like a lot of regular season games, you hear the old man complain, right? Like, oh, no one even tries in the NBA for the first three quarters. These NBA Cup games, they do because $1 million are on the line. So it's a little hint of what we will see later on this season when these teams are going, as I like to call it, full bore, when they're really trying as hard as they can. And Friday night's game against Houston, we saw the Nuggets as what they are if they're trying their hardest, if Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun are out of the lineup, but nonetheless with, those guys that they had, and they looked fantastic. And it was a fun game. Like that game came down to the end. Both teams were trying hard. Like I really enjoyed it. And Wednesday, tomorrow, the Spurs are playing the Portland Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers can clinch West Group C, which has been called the Group of Death, and the Trailblazers might win it. But if they lose, the Nuggets have the opportunity to win Friday, their entire group, and advance. And if they advance, Richie, those knockout stages, well, the Oklahoma City Thunder went to the finals of the NBA Cup last year. This is a really good proving ground for a team that's trying to come together early and learn who they are because it puts a little stress on them. So I don't think this would be a bad thing for the Nuggets, whereas the last couple of years where they were these exact same team run back, it didn't really do anything for them. So this year it can actually do something for them. So that's why I'm excited about it.
It's been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde roller coaster week and change for the Nuggets, Jake. When you look at they get up for a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, they let down with a loss against the Bulls. Then they beat the Houston Rockets in what's kind of a Western Conference measuring stick game against a formidable opponent that could factor into their postseason picture in a handful of months. And then they lose in their third meeting with the Sacramento Kings in 16 games. They drop that one to Russell Westbrook and the Kings. It's not so much a question of which squad do you believe in more, because I think when you factor in back-to-backs and maybe the lack of defensive intensity of getting up for games in a short period of time like that, which we've seen from the Nuggets before, I think I believe more in the wins in those two situations than the losses. But I'm curious what you think about how this team has come together thus far and how it projects given the injuries that are there going forward. How do you expect the injuries to Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun to impact the Nuggets rotation, the way that they approach this stretch of the season between now and the new year before things get reevaluated?
Let me just start with coming together. When's the last time we talked about Cameron Johnson?
It's fair.
Because it's coming together, right? Like this is what you wanted to see.
Season high in points. Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. And Tim Hardaway Jr. continues to play his role. Bruce Brown looks exactly like the guy that left Denver, maybe a little tiny bit worse, but he looks pretty great. And Jonas Valanciunas has provided exactly what the Denver Nuggets have needed. So this team is coming together. It's going to take a little while, as I kept saying. We're going to check in back with them in about a month on Christmas. Exactly a month from today. Get your shopping done. But, Richie, like I've been saying that for the whole time because that's about the quarter point in the NBA season is Christmas. And that's when people really start paying attention. So this part of the season, honestly, if you were to pick any time a guy could miss a month or two in the NBA season, it would be a couple weeks in, but before Christmas, going into the holidays, where they really start to get exciting and the NBA season really gets to go under the full speed about January. So if Christian Braun and Aaron Gordon were to pick any time they could miss a month, this would be the month to do it. And it's going to allow them to play some different guys and give them some elevated roles. We've seen that with Peyton Watson, who has had an awesome week. Just an awesome week. The best week of his career, has shown every part of his game that made him so tantalizing the last couple of years to the Nuggets, and put it all together. Will that continue? I don't know. Wait to find out. We're going to see more of Daron Holmes here, the Nuggets' first-round pick from 2 years ago that they used a lot of assets on to get. We're going to see how that plays out. We're already seeing an elevated role for Cameron Johnson in terms of the pecking order. He's getting more shots with Christian Braun and Aaron Gordon out. We're going to see Julian Strawther most likely, once he's healthy from his little back issue that he has, play a lot of minutes in spell of Christian Braun, who is not there. So I think this is a really interesting time for the Nuggets to come together. And obviously it's a net negative that Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun are hurt. It is a net negative. But there are some silver linings in the fact that some guys are going to get some opportunities here, and it allows maybe a quicker chemistry development with Cameron Johnson and the rest of the guys because he's so high up in the pecking order now.
Going into that Rockets game, Jake, I think I had some intrigue, and I think there was a little bit of buzz about this particular topic, about how the Nuggets might, with their current roster situation, deploy some lineups defensively to combat some of the size that Houston presents in the paint. You have Alperen Şengün and Steven Adams, and there was thoughts of, hey, maybe this is a time to break out that mythical Jokic, Valanciunas, double big lineup and see what that looks like. And now that we've gotten a taste of it in a game that, albeit they won, Jake, I think that it left a lot to be desired defensively, and offensively it was fine. I think it was somewhat on par with what we could have seen in other combinations, but I think statistically I saw they had a defensive rating with that lineup when it was on the court of like 158.3, which if you're talking about a passer rating in the NFL is perfect. It's actually outstanding. But for a defensive rating in the NBA, left certainly a lot to be desired. Is that what you came away from in that situation?
Despite Nikola Jokic saying, I am lightning, I am speed, I am one of the fastest people alive, here comes the thunder. He is not that fast, right? Yeah. We all know that. And Jonas Valanciunas, you just got to take one look at him to know that he is not that fast. So the two of them together is your backline rim protection when neither guy has real hops, neither guy has real speed. The reason why Jokic and Aaron Gordon works is because each other's athleticism, Jokic's strength, his IQ, his hands, complement Aaron Gordon's leaping and speed very well. And Aaron Gordon's a really strong person too. Jonas Valanciunas is in a similar body to Nikola Jokic. And one of the things that I actually agreed with Calvin Booth about his roster philosophy is we don't want the same player over and over again. We want different players across our roster. Well, to a certain extent, yeah, but Jokic and Jonas are very similar players, and having them on the court at the same time almost minimizes, in a way, some of the things they do well. It maximizes how good of a rebounding team you can be. And against the Houston Rockets specifically, who are on pace to be one of the greatest rebounding teams of all time, I think it actually makes a lot of sense to put Jonas and Jokic out there if Steven Adams and Alpi are out there. I mean, heck, Alpi only had 12 points in that game. I think the Nuggets did a pretty good job in that game, whatever their strategies were in the micro over the course of the entire game. So, yeah, will we see Jonas and Jokic play together against the Los Angeles Lakers, who have DeAndre Ayton and Dalton Connect? Like, no. But having that option is so important, because let's say you run into the Oklahoma City Thunder, Richie, and Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein are both having awesome games. Well, that gives you the option to give them a different look, whereas last year you didn't have that option.
Last thing on the Nuggets here, Jake, because you mentioned the value and the flexibility that you can have as an organization when you feel like you have options, right? And I think that factoring in a little bit of projection here and maybe some green lights, some of the flashes that we've seen from Peyton Watson in this early portion of the season, we're coming up on a quarter pole or so in the next month, combined with some of the physical attributes and intangibles that we've already evaluated that were part of the reason why he was drafted where he was by the Nuggets. And then you add in the extra layer of the opportunities available with injuries in the Nuggets starting five starting to pile up. It feels like, Jake, there is a world, given all of that context, where Peyton Watson has an avenue to potentially play himself into a significant dollar figure opportunity a la Christian Braun, the way that he did when he shot out of a cannon to his NBA career, being a pivotal bench player on a championship team, working his way into a starting lineup as the KCP replacement. Peyton Watson seems to have a similar type opportunity and has shown some flashes to maybe be able to raise that ceiling. If that does indeed continue to happen, what real options do the Nuggets have if Peyton Watson is a player that they would like to keep around here in the Mile High City?
I know Stan and Josh Kroenke probably don't want this secret out, but it's on them to pay him. Like, he's a restricted free agent. They can go into the second apron. I know they don't want to go into the second apron, but let's put it this way. If you cut Peyton Watson and you cut bait from Jonas Valanciunas and you significantly deplete this bench, you'll be right up against the second apron going into next season because the Aaron Gordon extension from last summer kicks in this year. So does this Christian Braun extension. You're already paying the other three starters a boatload of money. Cameron Johnson making less money than Michael Porter Jr., but still $20 million a year in a contract year. So basically, almost no matter what you do, Richie, you're either right up against the second apron or are going to go into the second apron. And if you're going to go into the second apron, there is no reason not to keep Jonas Valanciunas again and no reason not to bring Peyton Watson back on a long-term extension.
If you're going to dip a toe in, you might as well dive in head first at that point.
Exactly, because there's no the penalties for being a toe in and all the way in have no difference. It's you're still penalized the same amount. And yeah, your roster building becomes a lot tougher. But if you have a really good roster, heck, I'd rather have Peyton Watson the way he's playing right now than the optionality to go get like four guys that might be Tim Hardaway, but most likely are going to end up being like Reggie Jackson. Like, let's be real. Like, that's what that optionality really is. And the Nuggets still have a mid-level exception this year that they haven't used, like, because there wasn't really a guy to use it on. So having Peyton Watson, let's just put it at $18 to $22 million back here for multiple seasons, rewards him for developing in this system, is a really solid fit athletically, has some young spark to him, whereas the Nuggets roster is getting a little bit older, has shown in the last few weeks that he's versatile and can do different things on the basketball court. And we know about the defense already. So I think he's a really solid fit for this roster. He has given everything he possibly can to this franchise. And I really hope it works out for Peyton Watson and the Nuggets. But he is a restricted free agent, Richie, which means the Nuggets have his rights. So the Nuggets can match any offer that comes in on Peyton Watson. If someone wants to give him $35 million, they can match it. No one's going to do that because no one has the cap space to do it. But what you might see happen is the Nuggets actually trade his rights as a restricted free agent to someone else in sort of a sign and trade, pseudo sign and trade type deal. And the Nuggets get some sort of asset back. That asset will not be as good as Peyton Watson, but at least will be something instead of just him walking.
I want to shift gears to the Denver Broncos, which means it is time to hit the turn, presented by the Birdie Bar, Louisville's premier indoor golf bar. Check them out online and on Instagram at thebirdie.bar. And Jake, as we shift gears to the Denver Broncos here, coming out of their bye week, getting ready for a primetime showdown against the probably Jaden Daniels Washington Commanders, which I think is a fortuitous break, obviously, for the orange and blue. The Broncos, to me, really seem like they are in a race to the top of the AFC, and there's not that many people to the left and the right of them who are on this race with them. I think it's an incredibly fortunate situation that the Broncos have put themselves in. I think it's a little bit ahead of pace of what I and maybe you and others before the season would have predicted.
Not all the others, because Richie, shout out Cecil Lammey.
13-4.
He's the only one.
Yeah, I told him that. I sat down on the show with him yesterday, sitting in for Josh, and I had to give him the same kudos. I said, man, when you said 13-4, I'm like, you are really factoring in a lot of green lights here. You are catching this. And Jake, they very may well finish with that exact record when you look at the teams on the docket in front of them, starting with the potentially quarterbackless Commanders. It feels like to me, Jake, that the Broncos and the Patriots are essentially in a staring contest in this race to the top of the AFC. And whoever blinks first is going to be the one who finishes second, right? The Patriots are technically the number 1 seed in the AFC right now because they have a game in hand with the Broncos coming off of their bye week. And we will see with tiebreakers of record against common opponents, et cetera, how that situation might shake out. But it really feels like two teams that are on significant win streaks parallel to each other in the AFC. The first one to drop one and blink is going to have their chances in the AFC kind of slip through their fingers. How do you view the backstretch of this Broncos season stacked up against the Patriots, who they're neck and neck with, getting a game of breathing room against the Indianapolis Colts, who own a head-to-head matchup against the Broncos, and the likelihood that the Broncos secure the number 1 seed in the playoffs?
Yeah, I said this weeks ago. This stretch that the Denver Broncos just had, they basically had to win like 7 of those games to make the playoffs. Now, they've been fantastic, and they've won, I think, 8 of them. But this is the part of the Broncos schedule that starts to get really rough again. Obviously, the Commanders, the Broncos have caught a break in, as you've detailed, Richie. They are on the road. It's a veteran team, but they're without their best player, Jaden Daniels. So that's a big break. Then they go right to Vegas, and we know the Vegas Raiders are terrible. Like, that's a lot easier of a game than maybe people thought coming into the year. But you still got Green Bay, who is going to be probably a playoff team in the NFC. Jacksonville looks like a struggle. And then Kansas City, in what probably is going to be a must-win game for the Chiefs. And then the Chargers last week of the season at home, which is probably going to be a must-win game for the Chargers. So that's still a pretty tough schedule. Whereas, Richie, if you look at this Patriots schedule, I don't know if you've done this.
It's Cupcake City.
Oh, my God. The Bengals, right? They just played. Now they've got the Giants. They've got the Bills, but it's at home, and the Bills have been kind of bad recently. You've got at Baltimore, which Baltimore, that's a must-win game. We know Baltimore struggled this year, but a must-win game. The Jets, who are trying to lose actively, and the Dolphins, who are terrible. Like, there's one game on that schedule that I say that maybe the Patriots won't win. Yeah. So the Broncos really have to win all but one of their games or go undefeated for the rest of the time to get that 1 seed. And that would make sense, right? 14-3 is about what the 1 seed gets every single year in the conferences. So I love where the Broncos are at. I will caution people and say, I'm not going to be too upset if they don't get the number 1 seed. Like, that was way above our skis going into the year. And this is the tougher part of their schedule. I think we've learned who this team is, and I'm more interested in them getting healthy and being full as an offensive line, one of their best parts of their team, going into the playoffs than I am anything else, because they can't afford to lose another guy like J.K. Dobbins. Heck, they might not have been able to afford to lose J.K. Dobbins. We don't really even know what the verdict is on that yet.
Jake, you kind of teed up the exact spot that I was going to go next, which was to introduce our poll question of the week. It is the second installment of it. And the question was, how important is it for the Broncos to secure the number 1 seed in the AFC? You can vote there at DEN Sports 1043 on Twitter or at Denver Sports 1043 on YouTube. We will reveal the results in its totality on Friday. And Jake, this is the point in the show where I think I'm going to have to disagree with you. I actually think the Broncos need to secure the number 1 seed in the AFC if the ultimate goal is to play in and win a Super Bowl. Now, you can say fairly that might have been a little over our skis at the start of the season, but we're live, baby. We got to have reactive eyes here. The Broncos are at the top of the American Football Conference. Prior to their bye week, they were the number 1 seed with a tiebreaker because of common opponent record in the AFC over the Patriots. So the evaluation and the expectation has to change. I don't look at that and say, hey, it's all gravy now. They kind of exceeded. They outkicked their coverage of where I thought they'd be. So whatever happens from here is there. No, it's hard to win in the postseason, in the regular season, and certainly in the Super Bowl in the NFL. And the Broncos have put themselves in a position where they can secure the path of least resistance to make that happen for a 4th time in franchise history. And 2 of the previous 3 times that they won a Super Bowl, they did it by securing the number 1 seed and then having 2 home playoff games with the best home field advantage in the NFL plus altitude to put them in position to play in a Super Bowl. And when you look at this defense, you say, hey, okay, this is a championship caliber defense in the year 2025. And it can travel. It has already shown that in the regular season. But this offense, even with J.K. Dobbins, Jake, this offense showed plenty of times that it needs a little love. It needs some circumstances to go right. It needs a fantastic defense to help keep it in games, to allow these fourth quarter heroics and second half surges to take place. And I think that becomes a significantly more difficult ask if you're on the road in the playoffs against the stiffest competition in your conference. So I understand that in theory, they can have a path to accomplish those things without it. And people like Cecil Lammey, who told me that yesterday, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Phooey, hogwash to me. I am fine with the path of least resistance, and I am focused on, and I think the Broncos need the most advantageous set of circumstances around them for their offense to be able to get them where the defense can take them.
Richie, you must be in the new Christopher Nolan movie because you're like sirens singing into my ear right now, agreeing with everything you're saying. Here's the to back your point. You didn't even mention this. If you get the number 1 seed, you're going to get less opportunities to run into the Bills, Chiefs, and Ravens. You're only going to actually have 2 opportunities to maybe run into those guys. If you get the 2 seed, you might go 1, 2, 3 against those guys, and that's pretty scary. I think we all know that those teams are beasts, kind of been sleeping through most of the season. So I understand, and I'm kind of with you. Let me rephrase from what I said. I don't think the Broncos are going to get the number 1 seed. If they're going to win the Super Bowl, I think it's pretty important that they get the number 1 seed. So that's kind of where I'm at, is I don't really know that they're going to get there, which is why my expectation is not that they're going to get there or that they need to get it. But I'm always with you, Richie. I believe that, Fooey, you don't need to be the best to beat the best. Like that's a mess. The Denver Nuggets in their 2023 championship season, they didn't really run into anyone.
Played the 8th seed Miami Heat in the finals.
That's one of the reasons why I think they would have won either way that year, but they won so easily, 16-4 record in the playoffs, because they didn't run into anyone. The Avs, the year they won the championship in 2022, they literally skated to a championship. I mean, They ended up with Tampa Bay in the finals, who was a much tougher team than anyone that the Nuggets played, but that was a pretty easy run. Again, 16-4. So I'm with you. I want like the Jacksonville Jaguars to sneak into the playoffs and be the Broncos' first week of like if they don't get that number 1 seed.
If you told me before the start of the, right now, that if we fast forwarded to the postseason, that the Broncos were going to get a first round bye, they were going to let the gauntlet that is going to be wild card weekend with the Bills, Ravens, potentially the Chiefs, plus the Chargers, and maybe the Jaguars as it sits right now, unless the Houston Texans kind of shake that up a little bit. If you're going to tell me that those teams get to beat the hell out of each other in opening weekend, then in the divisional round with the reseeding, they find a way to get the Baltimore Ravens, but Lamar Jackson got banged up as he has 3 separate times throughout the course of the season, and they're facing a backup quarterback, Baltimore Ravens, in the divisional round. Great. And then they have to either go through maybe a Buffalo team that defensively is struggling and maybe has injuries as well, or the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Trevor, you get the A side of Trevor Lawrence, not the B side, and you've got to go through a backup Baltimore plus Trevor Lawrence and the Jags to get to a Super Bowl. Sign me up 10 times out of 10, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. History does not remember it any differently. The Lakers won a championship in the NBA bubble without a single fan in attendance and with an entirely completely different game board and set of circumstances. And you know what still counts? The ring.
You know what? That might be the worst. That might be the only time people actually do remember, Richie.
Yeah.
But every other time I'm with you. No one remembers.
Yeah, they do get a lot of flack for that, and I get it. But again, the Nuggets example.
But no one remembers the Super Bowl that year. What was the Chiefs? There was no. Right?
Yeah. That was that was the Chiefs and the Buccaneers, right? Didn't they play it at Raymond James? Yeah.
In half the games played that season were in front of nobody, and half the playoff games were like with 10% attendance. Like, no one remembers. I mean, I remember it because I'm a sicko, but like no one ever brings up that Tom Brady's last Super Bowl happened basically in a bubble.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think it's reasonable to say, hey, it might be out of reach because New England has virtually the easiest strength of schedule remaining on the backstretch of the season, and Denver's is significantly tougher. And then you factor in, the loss of J.K. Dobbins. They're hoping to get Patrick Surtain and their green dot Alex Singleton back in a hurry. But the road is much tougher. And I think that the Broncos offense presents a little bit more of a limiting factor thus far because of their sluggish and slow starts and the kind of uphill battle that they face to say, hey, yeah, they can cross that threshold. But if they are two separate things, so I'm glad you kind of separated them. If the Broncos are going to reach the Super Bowl and potentially fulfill and materialize the vision that their head coach put out before the start of the season, which, because I talked about it with Cecil yesterday, it was August 4th, 2025, that Sean Payton sat down with Charles Robinson at Yahoo Sports with his double latte moment and said those things. If that vision is going to be materialized, they need to catch green lights along the way, and they can't catch those green lights unless they put themselves in a position down this back stretch to get that first round bye, secure home field advantage, and make the AFC playoffs run through the Mile High City.
Yeah, I'm with you, Richie. I mean, literally, and we made it complicated. Getting the 1 seed, football games can go any way. Like, we know that any given Sunday, right? Getting the 1 seed, it minimizes that because you have to play one less game. That's as simple as I can make it.
Correct. All right, Jake, thank you so much for joining us. That is all the time that we have today. Remember, to all of you out there, we appreciate you. We love you. Like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan YouTube channel. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at that handle. And if you watch us on your Facebook or your X/Twitter accounts, we love you. We appreciate you. Retweet, share, like, comment. We will be there to interact with you, and we will catch you tomorrow at noon for the next rundown.